So help me understand what impact Brexit uncertainty is having on financial services right now, because I read lots of conflicting headlines from different sectors. So the housing market seems to be hurt. Then in real estate, we see British Land's CFO talking about how demand has remained good, and we see robustness and resilience in that sector. But then the BCC, the British Chambers of Commerce, says politicians are chasing rainbows. This is having a real impact on business. What is the financial services story at the moment? How much of an impact is this really having?
So from day one, we operated on the basis that the UK was going to leave the EU on the 29th of March, which obviously has now been delayed. And so every company for about 2.5 years has been working back from that point to make sure that it can look after its customers. And so what we've seen is, and the EY Brexit tracker is a great sort of example of seeing this play through in real time. A number of jobs have moved, assets have moved, but companies have really done what they need to do within the parameters they've got to look after those customers. Ultimately, some of this comes down to regulators, so there are certain regulatory actions we need on things like contract continuity or data adequacy. But, you know, London, the rest of the UK, the financial services industry here has just done what it always does do, which is to crack on and make sure it can do business in the best way it can.
Miles, good to see you this morning. So let's just extrapolate forward a little bit. A hard Tory victory leader and a harder Brexit, or maybe even a hard Brexit completely. What would that do? Would that be an exogenous shock and an acceleration of the movement that you've seen?
I think actually the industry has for some time expected a hard Brexit. It's planned for a hard Brexit. It's hoped for a softer Brexit. And so what it's done is made sure that whatever happens, and this has been a case of having to work very closely with regulators. We've had a terrific relationship with the regulators here in the UK, working on this with the public authorities such as HM Treasury and so on. So actually, if there is a hard Brexit, we have, to all intents and purposes, gone through a hard Brexit. As I say, there are a certain number of things that we need to do with European regulators in particular, but we're well positioned.
Do the financial services businesses, do banks, do they talk to you about the possibility of a Corbyn victory and what that means for them, and whether they're actually having to take action within their banks to prepare for that? Because obviously he's been very critical of the banking sector.
So as you'd expect with our industry, or with any industry, you prepare for particular potential political outcomes. We've dealt with John McDonnell closely. We've had roundtables with him and some of our senior companies. We've dealt with the Shadow City Minister on a regular basis, and we've had a very, very frank exchange, very constructive exchange with the Labour team. There are things we agree with them on. There are things that we want to explore further. There's a recognition of the importance of a close relationship with Europe. But there are things where we disagree with them on, and disagree with them on very strongly, and there's been a good dialogue on that.
Miles, can I ask you which jurisdiction has the greatest appetite to take systemic risk away from London?
So when you look at the cities that have tried to draw business to them from London, the ones that have been amongst the most aggressive, Paris is the one that everyone's very conscious of. There's been a real effort there by the regulators to try and bring as much business as possible. And over the long term, clearly the aim in Paris is to try and create a full spectrum European international financial centre. When you look at typically the more successful centres that have attracted business, so I'm thinking of Luxembourg, of Dublin in particular, Frankfurt. The first two in particular have presented themselves, if you like, as your European footprint for your UK operation, and that's actually been more successful.